In this episode of Dermatologist Talks, Science of Beauty, we're going to be chatting about the science behind the nanoparticle impregnated biofunctional textiles under my biomaterials arm of Dr. TWR Dermaceuticals. I have with me here Chelsea, who is also suffering from maskne, like many of us. In this year 2020, when we are having to wear the face mask for purposes of pandemic control, it's a public health measure. Now, Chelsea, you're 19 this year and you've suffered from acne outbreaks in the past. How has face mask wearing changed your skin? Would you like to share with us a bit more about that?
Hi, Dr. Tu. Yes, I have had some breakouts in the past. But generally in the forehead area. So after having to wear face masks, especially for longer periods of time, I've definitely noticed more breakouts around my chin area and just the lower part of my face in general.
Now, that's very consistent with the phenomenon which we now know as maskne, which I described as being distinct from physiologic or hormonal acne patterns in my research letter in the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology. So for maskne, we find that the pattern of involvement is centered around what we call the ozone of the face, which essentially is the area that is covered or occluded by a face mask. Now, what you experienced in the past around the forehead, on the nose, that's likely according to the pattern of physiologic acne of adolescents, for example. Adult females tend to have a pattern of acne around the jawline, what we term as the U zone of the face, and that is often associated with hormonal fluctuations. An underlying hormonal disorder, polycystic ovarian syndrome, may be suspected if the individual also has irregular menstrual cycles and excess hair growth. Now, today, I want to share more about my area of research, which is in the science of metallic nanoparticles incorporated into textiles, which have antioxidant bactericidal effects that can be used as adjunct therapy in the treatment of various skin disorders. The masks from the biomaterials range are incorporated with metallic nanoparticles that are selected on the basis of their known bactericidal properties. So there's a difference between the terms, that's broadly used by laypersons like antimicrobial, which basically just means that, there is some benefit in resisting the growth of bacteria, etc. But in medical terms, it is quite specific. We kind of specify if it is a bactericidal or a bacteriostatic effect, for example, of a disinfectant, right? So the thing with materials that have been used for the skin microbiome in diseases such as eczema, we have used silver and zinc nanoparticles incorporated into textiles to improve the skin flora of individuals who suffer from eczema, and it's used as a part of evidence-based adjunct therapy. So the reason is because changes in the skin microbiome are directly related to the development of many skin conditions. And of course, what's very relevant these days would be maskne. And in my white paper on maskne published in the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology in October this year, I discussed how the evolution of maskne is directly related to the occlusive effect of wearing a textile over your skin, and how biofunctional textiles, such as incorporated with the Q-ons nanoparticles, the copper nanoparticles, and other metallic ions, can be of value in treating the skin microbiome without incurring antibiotic resistance.
And I know that you have recently just launched 2 other new masks. Can you tell us more about that?
So the 2 other masks that we are launching now, the Zinc Cool mask is impregnated with zinc nanoparticles, and zinc has been established in the use of topical zinc, for example, for the treatment of acne in terms of regulating sebum production as well as its known anti-inflammatory effects. Now, the key feature about maskne and its microenvironment is also that the increase in moisture, temperature, and humidity. These form a specific microclimate that can increase the growth of microorganisms leading to skin disease, and also can increase the occurrence of heat-related dermatosis. So we're familiar with hyperhidrosis. Now, some individuals have facial hyperhidrosis, so excessive sweating predominantly over the face, and that can be a source of social embarrassment. Cholinergic urticaria is a type of heat-related rash, and then malaria itself, which we know is quite commonly as just heat rash. Now, white is chosen because of its ability to reflect heat. So the key thing though with white is that it often is prone to staining, and clearly for women who wear foundation and lipstick, we're concerned, right? If you're wearing a white mask, if it's going to stain the inside of the mask. So this particular Zinco textile is engineered with what we call whiter than white technology, which is basically what makes it a self-cleaning textile. So it's been proven to be actively bactericidal. So bactericidal means it kills bacteria on contact, versus something that may be, say, just antimicrobial, which means it's probably bacteriostatic, slightly superior in terms of preventing the growth of bacteria. But the contact of the zinc nanoparticles on skin means that it kills the microorganisms on skin, and it also, of course, by virtue of the special coating on it, is resistant to permanent stains. So when your makeup or your foundation gets on it, it washes off really easily with just a simple gentle detergent. And these masks can all be hand washed with just soap and water, and over time this will help to maintain the integrity of the mask and is also more hygienic.
The osmium blue mask is your most recent release. I love the dark blue color. It's perfect for the festive season too. Tell us more about where you got your inspiration behind the unique blue-black metallic color.
Now, for the new osmium blue mask, which is engineered from the same material as the original Qion's nanoparticle mask, it's actually in a brand new shade, and it's a shade that is inspired by the element, which is a metal, osmium. It's the rarest metal in the Earth's crust, and in its natural state, it is blue-black in color. Now, I found that very fascinating, how there is a science behind metallic color perception, and why, there is actually evidence, right, in studies done that people do indeed prefer metallic colors, like bling, simply because of the increased glossiness and shine of the object that has this metallic quality to it. So, I'm one person that's not very into loud kind of bling, right? So like gold or silver or big accessories. So my favorite color is actually, my favorite colors are blue and black. So I basically, attempted to incorporate the elements of my favorite color, blue and black, and also by virtue of the fact that the textile itself is composed of actual metal nanoparticles, we're able to create a brand new sort of sheen that we call it the osmium blue finish. The key thing about this is, as our photographer who photographed it said that it's very challenging because it actually reflects light from every single angle, and there's something slightly poetic about that, I feel, because in 2020, certainly it's an understatement to say that it's been a very uncertain year, and with a lot of major changes, right, to the entire world landscape. So, out of this doom and gloom, I guess the fabric mask has emerged somewhat as a symbol of hope, and in Singapore, for example, where there is widespread enforcement of mask wearing, it also symbolizes unity of sorts. So the metallic sheen, right, that comes out of this blue and black, so both rather heavy, colors that communicate a sense of something which is a bit more serious and dark, so that the metallic tones actually bring out this element of hope. And I feel that just in time for the festive season as well, it's a cheerful reminder that not all is lost for the year.
Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about your inspiration behind the color of the osmium blue mask. It's such a great message too. Well, moving on a little bit, so there are so many different types of face masks out there. Surgical masks, N95, fabric masks. Which type of face mask is the most effective? And do face masks have expiry dates?
So the issue with expiry of, say, surgical or N95 masks has to do with the deterioration primarily of the material that would affect its either filtration ability, or in the case of the surgical mask, the ability to be water impermeable, droplet resistant, that plays a role in preventing the droplet transmission of infectious diseases like COVID. Of course, as a manufacturer, for example, if you are a manufacturer of disposable masks, then the certifications actually require labeling of the manufacture date, and if it were to be used beyond the date that is stipulated to be the expiry of disposable masks, then batch testing has to be conducted in order to recertify that the filtration and droplet resistant properties are still intact. The thing with reusable fabric masks is that it is currently not regulated, but the public health recommendation stands. As I mentioned in my book on maskne, and also referenced in my white paper, the wearing of fabric mask is a efficient public health recommendation. Now, clearly, because the textile, any form of a textile covering, as long as it is worn over the orifices, so the nose, the mouth area, is able to limit to a certain extent the droplet spread. For example, when you're talking and you're coughing or breathing, and overall it's going to contain the biofluids that's responsible for spreading the pandemic, right? However, the key thing to note here is the type of textile, from what we already know about different types of fabric, of course, affects the skin. And we have covered the effects of biofunctional materials on the skin microbiome, right, and how that influences the development of skin diseases, and the skin microclimate, which really directly relates to factors that you consider as breathability, right, which encompasses a lot of things like the ability to move your jaw, for example, freely when you're speaking, to feel comfortable wearing a mask when you're speaking, because obviously that's when we do want the mask on. Having a metallic nose bridge, for example, is not necessary. Neither is it a good feature to have from a dermatologist point of view for the purpose of just public wear, right, to limit biofluid spread. So we're clearly not talking about in medical settings where we directly want to protect the individual wearing the mask from the aerosols. Okay, so COVID-19 has been proven to be airborne to a large extent as well, and transmission via asymptomatic individuals.
What type of fabric should I choose for my face mask? Does it make a difference for my skin?
What we know, for example, of textiles like cotton, linen, silk, well, these they promote a healthier skin microclimate, right? That means that there is generally, less retention of heat, better wicking of moisture. But the fundamental problem, and that's why I do not recommend, for example, silk masks at all, right? Is because of the lack of durability and the integrity of the textile. It plays a very, very large and crucial role in terms of the function of a facial covering during a pandemic. So as we know, silk in our wardrobe already should not be something that you can launder, with just a regular detergent or put in a washing machine, right? Because it is a very, very delicate textile and is prone to rips and tears, and it's also much lighter, right? And I'm not sure as to how effective that is in terms of containing your biofluids, right? And actually, it's definitely not water resistant, and I feel that practically speaking is not going to do a very good job of containing your biofluids, right? But the other aspect about the care of silk is when you're using a reusable face mask, right, you are wanting to have a textile that can be laundered. If you are very concerned about, odors, especially when it's something that's covering your mouth and your nose, the face mask is something that will smell because of the respiratory nasal droplets and moist environment coming into contact with it for a prolonged period of time. So being able to wash the textile at high temperatures, for example, in a washing machine, immediately excludes the use of materials like silk. Okay, and dry cleaning in the context of the COVID pandemic, I think it's really very impractical, and it's also very questionable as to the hygiene of such masks when they are being used.
Reading your white paper on maskne, you propose the ideal face mask design based on biofunctional textiles. Can you tell us about the features of biofunctional textiles and how it affects our skin?
Now, going back to the topic of the expiry date of, for example, these biofunctional textiles, which are unique because they're actually metals that are incorporated into textiles. So there are two main components here to discuss. So the first is how effectively are the metallic ions being incorporated into textiles. So it is a permanent incorporation that does not wash out when you are laundering it. Okay, so by virtue of this fact, the permanent incorporation means that as long as the textile does not lose its integrity, there should be no significant loss of the metallic ions that are impregnated in the textile. And the activity, the function of these textiles exists simply because when it's in contact with these metallic ions, the bactericidal function, it helps to treat the skin microbiome. But, of course, if there are visible rips and tears, same with any textile, then you should not continue to use it as a fabric, as a face mask, right? Because, we do not want any loss of structural integrity to affect the effectiveness of the fabric mask in terms of biofluid containment.
I know that the biofunctional textile in your new mask line is made out of synthetic fibers. What is the difference between natural and synthetic fibers, and can you explain the benefits and disadvantages?
The other thing, of course, is a synthetic material. So synthetic materials, as opposed to natural materials like cotton, linen, silk, they are water resistant. Now, the traditional recommendation by dermatologists has always been to wear, breathable clothing, and that's usually from natural fibers, from plant fibers. So linen, cotton, these are considered breathable materials. But in the context of a pandemic where you're wearing it over your mask, there are some unique considerations, which is the high moisture levels would mean that these natural fibers, which naturally also absorb and retain water, are going to get very heavy and saturated, and that contributes to what we call the accumulated stickiness sensation, a term used in material science, that would reduce the user's comfort, and that certainly something we don't want, because compliance is the most important thing when we're advocating this widespread use of fabric masks, right? So it's only going to be effective if everyone does it. So you only need one weak link for the entire chain to collapse, right? And then it's simply out of control. So I feel that the important point here to make is the distinction between natural and synthetic fibers has to be made in terms of its effect on the skin microclimate. So for natural fibers, it has a beneficial effect on the skin microclimate, but the trade-off is lack of water resistance, because in this case we want it to be water repellent, droplet resistant, so that you do not let the biofluids get beyond the textile itself. And that's an important feature, for example, of the surgical mask. But the second feature, of course, is their durability. So natural fibers, unfortunately, are not durable. They can't be laundered at the same high temperatures, and they may also show disintegrations much quicker. So biofunctional textiles have the best of both worlds, right? So this is the concept that I spoke about in my research paper, because they're treated with specific factors that increase the evaporation coefficient. So they are actually synthetic fibers, but because of the way it's been treated, and plus the fact that they are incorporated with these specific metallic ions, nanoparticles, that directly treat the skin microbiome without the use of antibiotics, right? Killing bacteria without medication. They hold a lot of promise for being, adjunct therapeutics in the treatment of various skin conditions that is covered by the face mask, for example, and also it's of much more practical value in the current pandemic.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Teo, for giving us this essential guide on the type of face mask we should be wearing and tips on how to care for it. Well, that about sums up the episode. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.